Alright, next step is we're going to use some really nasty stuff. This is Weld-On number 3. This is a acrylic bonding agent. Now, this stuff's pretty nasty. It smells bad. It's kind of gross if you get it on your hands. Generally, it feels like it could probably give me cancer. So, I want to be really careful with this stuff. Generally, you'll want to spend $1.50 and get one of these little applicators. Most plastic supply shops have these, both in stock. Of course, you can order them online. 50 cents to $1. Get this tool. Basically, it's a little needle. We put our solution in there, and literally all we do is we just run it around the corners and or along the edges, and it seeps into the crack, and that creates a really strong bond for us. Now, a trick here, this Weld-On stuff seems to be really thin, really like it's just doesn't have surface tension to it. It's low viscosity, and so because of that, if you drip it on you, it just kind of covers your whole finger. You know what I mean? So part of the problem with that is, well, it likes to come out of here really easily. So what I've learned is if you squeeze this, you know, only want to run this half full generally. You'll never use a whole container of this in the build. This will give you the ability to turn it upside down and it'll suck in air, and then you can, by pressure, simply control how much is coming out. Now, to glue this, literally we just run it along the edges, and as we run it, got a little thick over there, I apologize, you'll see the color change, the light will change how it reflects in the piece. And those tabs, you just want to make sure you give a little extra generous dose so that it seeps in on the sides. And you can easily visually see if you've got good contact with the glue. Okay, so that is step one to putting this project together. Now we have a whole bunch of these little guys. These are our corner mounts. Trick is you can't install these until this is cured, about 24 hours, and they will sit in basically like that. I just used a simple clamp to hold them in place and let them cure overnight. And we will tap those once they're in place. So I'm gonna, now just another tip, I have this spool of wire here. This makes an excellent stand for this. And what it does is it prevents any overflow you get around the edge from bonding whatever you have this sitting on to your project. Kind of a good lesson to learn if you want a nice clean project. The end result looks something like this. Ta-da! Look at that, I have a box. Tabs are in place, pretty ready to rock and roll. And we have the top lid. So, pretty straightforward stuff. Putting this together for the base. So, let's move on. Next up, we have the components for the upper turret. And what we have here is we have the ring mounts for the Q loader. If you don't want to use a Q loader, don't use a Q loader. Use a couple hoppers. It's cheaper, doesn't look as cool, but hey, you don't have these things hanging off the side. Bonus is the turret overall is a little bit more nimble when you're using it. So, for all intents and purposes, I'm going to set this aside. I don't figure too many people are going to use the Q loaders, even though they look cool. Again, same construction. Tabs simply fit into the slots. Really important tip. See this hole right there? That is for our motor mounts. And that's what these guys are. Okay, we got a whole bunch. I'll grab them here for you. A whole bunch of motor mounts. And we've got mounts for larger motors, small motors. We've got some that are flat on the bottom. We've got some that have notches. And the notch, it's designed to sit in this notch, give you a little play so you can tighten the chain, glue it in place, or completely float wherever you want to put it over in this region. Note, this is on the back angle. Okay? I've put one of these together the wrong way before with it sitting up here. Made me pretty pissed off. Don't do that. We don't want to do that. So, same technique. Use your electrical tape. Cross across there. Pull it together. Now, on this piece, it's going to want to spring out like that. So, if you use a piece of tape and just bridge across the top here, it makes life really easy. And then, if you take and throw a square next to it as it cures on both sides, just kind of tape it there. It ensures an absolutely square piece. So, the end result should look something like this. This is obviously with the Q letters on the sides. We've got our motor mount, and pretty straightforward. So now we need to have the inner cradle. This is what actually holds the paintball gun. That's this guy right here. Check that out. Ooh, important little kind of hint about this. So here's kind of a close look. I've built this now using some Tippmann A5s, and I've built this also with the ions. When I use the A5s, it seems to be a heavier gun, maybe a little more front-loaded, weight-wise. And so what I've had happen is this seam will separate. Well, the nice thing is, if you drill 3 holes, 1, 2, 3, and sink a screw in there so your screw penetrates, piece of cake, holds itself together no problem. So these are the holes where the stubs of the handle grips go through. We've got some rails here to give it a little elevation, lift it up, and these are actually lined up with the holes on the gun. And of course we have the axle. I don't know where my axle is. Tough. Okay, so that pretty much covers building the main structure of the paintball gun. Next up, we're going to start putting some electronics in it. So, hope you stick around.